Many Democrats are hoping the party will replace President Biden and get some young blood in the race, prompting one contender to get a transfusion from local orphans.
I bet Bill has not had a good night's sleep for years. I mean, that's why he aged so badly.
Yeah.
You know, like, a lot of people don't know this. Bill Clinton is only 37 years old. A lot of people don't know that. But she's just evil. Like, there's nothing like her.
Why would she even tweet that? Like, don't you have
I think she just sits around in her evil lair whenever she runs out of Eye of Newt and Small Children to Boil. She then goes to X and just says whatever the most.
For years, Hillary Clinton has attempted to transform political loss into a revival tour, but Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus dismantle that illusion. They slice through the justifications, the constant blame shifting, and the myth of inevitability she crafted around herself. What's left isn't a pioneer or a legend. It's the personification of privilege that couldn't seal the deal. Gutfeld and Tyrus prove that Hillary's narrative isn't one of victory, but of failure cloaked in denial.
Registered voters said any Republican would be better than President Biden, prompting one woman to legally change her name to NE Republican.
Every time she talks, you kind of get why Bill did what he did. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, it's kind of like, again, I don't condone, cheating, but that's your morning.
Yeah.
You gotta kiss that before you go to bed at night, and then you gotta sleep with one eye open.
Yeah.
Because your buddy Epstein didn't off him.
Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus wasting no time ripping into Hillary Clinton is like watching two wrecking experts demolish a structure that was already teetering for decades. Hillary Clinton isn't just a political figure, she's the emblem of elite privilege, the face of failure masked as inevitability, and the woman who turned every apparent strength into a flaw. If politics had a blooper reel, her career would be the extended director's cut.
That's good.
This might be, in my opinion, the worst thing she's ever said. Because we know New York City subways. Kids don't take the subway.
Yeah.
I mean,
and if you do, you're like, whose kid is that?
Yeah, there are men on there who set fire to women. But she's pretending that the people that are trying to reduce crime, that are doing it for themselves, because she's only used to doing things for herself.
Yeah.
If you're enjoying this video, please make sure to subscribe the channel and hit the bell icon. Hillary has spent her entire life believing she was fated for greatness, that history was already etched with her name at the top, but Goodell reminds us that destiny has a sense of humor and it loves irony. This is the woman who had every benefit: wealth, networks, media favoritism, and a spouse who was the ultimate political strategist. And yet, she still failed to capitalize on the biggest political opportunity in American history. Losing to Donald Trump in 2016 wasn't just a setback, it was an extinction-level event for her credibility. Gutfeld and Tyrus tear into the fact that her campaign slogan could have been "Because I Said So," and it would have been just as effective as the one she actually ran on.
So Aaron, that was Hillary at a talk in Manhattan earlier this month. When Martha, is that her name? Margaret Hoover asked her that question about what do you have. It was a beautiful dig. Did you see Hillary? Like, what advice would you give to the first woman president? And it's like, it's not you, Hillary. It's not you. Whoopsie poopsie, Hillary.
Greg particularly doesn't let her off the hook. He portrays Hillary as the master of pretending to be approachable, a virtuoso of fake relatability. Remember the hot sauce in her bag? That wasn't genuineness. That was market research gone awry. The harder she tried to act the part of the common woman, the more evident it became that she's never stepped into the real world since she first entered Yale Law School. It's not that Hillary doesn't understand the struggles of everyday Americans. It's that she doesn't care to understand. Her entire perspective revolves around power and the belief that she deserves it.
Hillary Clinton argues Joe should be, quote, direct and forceful, end quote, against Trump in the CNN debate. Yeah, direct and forceful, just like the noose I put around Epstein's neck. If I did it.
Gutfeld labels her the political version of that colleague who keeps attending meetings despite being sacked 3 times. No matter how often the public rejects her, Hillary keeps slinking back into the spotlight with a new book, a new podcast, or a new Netflix appearance. She's like a politician who refuses to accept that the curtain already fell and everyone else has gone home. The audience has moved on, but Hillary keeps demanding an encore no one requested.
Hell no!
She's back like a sore on a porn star's lip.
Ew.
Complaining on X about Trump cleaning up D.C., she says, quote, on one hand, Republican officials call themselves war fighters. On the other, they become whiny crybabies.
And let's discuss her endless justifications. According to Hillary, she didn't lose in 2016 because she was an ineffective candidate with no clear message. No, it was the FBI, the Russians, sexism, Bernie Sanders, voter suppression, and perhaps even the weather. If a dog barked too loudly in Wisconsin, she'd likely find a way to blame it for her defeat. Gutfeld and Tyrus emphasize this endless blame game as the defining trait of Hillary's legacy. She's the first politician to lose an election and then spend the next decade auditioning for the role of world's greatest victim. They dig deeper into that point, stressing how Hillary's career has been a pattern of failure followed by reinvention. When her healthcare plan failed in the 1990s, she rebranded herself as a tough senator. When she lost to Barack Obama in 2008, she rebranded herself as a global diplomat. When she lost to Donald Trump, she rebranded herself as a feminist icon. It's the same tactic over and over again. Package failure as empowerment, pitch it to the media, and hope people overlook the actual record.
Former President Joe Biden has advanced prostate cancer. I'm sure the announcement had nothing to do with the recently released Her audio and the bombshell book about his cognitive decline. Just like I think how Yoko Ono had nothing to do with the Beatles breaking up. Yeah, and that rash I got had nothing to do with my weekend at the Mustang Ranch. After hearing the news of Biden's cancer, Hillary Clinton posted, quote, wishing you a speedy recovery and let me know if there's any.
Former President Joe Biden has advanced prostate cancer. I'm sure the announcement had nothing to do with the recently released Her audio and the bombshell book about his cognitive decline. Just like I think how Yoko Ono had nothing to do with the Beatles breaking up, yay, and that rash I got had nothing to do with my weekend at the Mustang Ranch. After hearing the news of Biden's cancer, Hillary Clinton posted, quote, wishing you a speedy recovery and let me know if there's.
The White House says no classified information was involved. There's still no word if they'll return to Joe Biden's preferred form of communication. Hillary Clinton weighed in on the Signal story saying, you gotta be kidding me.
But people don't forget her fingerprints are all over catastrophes like Libya, where her gleeful cackling about Gaddafi's downfall is now the soundtrack to a failed state. She oversaw the Russian reset, which soured like bad milk the moment Putin decided to go full supervillain. They frame her foreign policy resume not as seasoned leadership, but as a series of poorly planned experiments that left the world worse off. What's truly devastating about Gutfeld and Tyrus's takedown is how they depict Hillary as fixated on history books that will never celebrate her. She has spent decades trying to craft her legacy in advance, like someone forcing their own Wikipedia page into existence. But history doesn't bend that way, and the harder she's tried to shape her place in it, the more it's slipped from her grasp. Instead of becoming the first female president, she's become the first female candidate to prove that simply being female is not enough. Instead of becoming a feminist icon, she became the cautionary tale for why privilege doesn't translate into victory.
Johnny Hostin, the only member of The View not vaccinated for canine distemper, kicked things off by asking Hillary what will happen if Trump is reelected, which is odd because Hillary's an expert on not getting elected. I wonder, does she think it would end our country as we know it?
I think it would be the end of our country as we know it. And I don't say that lightly. You know, I hated losing, and I especially hated losing to him because I had seen so many warning signals.
Greg particularly relishes the irony. Hillary was supposed to shatter the glass ceiling, but instead she became the woman who stumbled over the step stool while trying to reach it. She didn't inspire a movement, she provoked a backlash. Every time she spoke about inevitability, voters fled in the other direction. Every time she demanded loyalty, people questioned why she deserved it in the first place. Hillary wasn't the leader people wanted, she was the lecturer they never requested. Gutfeld sharpens the knife by noting how Hillary's political career has always relied on the failures of others. She rose in the shadow of Bill, used his scandals for sympathy, and leveraged his connections for influence. She tried to ride Barack Obama's coattails into the role of heir apparent, only to discover that his charisma only highlighted her flaws more starkly. And when she finally got her shot against Donald Trump, She was so certain the universe owed her that she forgot to actually win over voters. Tyrus drives home the point that Hillary Clinton isn't a leader. She's a brand, and a tired one at that. Her speeches, her books, her endless media appearances, they all sell the same product. The myth of Hillary as the unfulfilled promise of history, but the product never delivers. It's like buying a box labeled Revolutionary Change and opening it to find a used copy of her memoir.
Bark Air is designed specifically to prioritize dogs. The problem is they all want to fly with their heads out the window. Adorable, but dead. In Washington, D.C., the giant grocery chain has announced a ban on large bags. Great, now where will I shop? Complains one large bag.
By the time Gutfeld and Tyrus finish dissecting her, the picture is crystal clear. Hillary Clinton will never be remembered as the president who wasn't. She will be remembered as the politician who had every tool, every benefit, every opportunity, and still managed to lose the unlosable. She is the epitome of political arrogance meeting the harsh reality of voters who refuse to be told what to think. Her legacy isn't greatness. It's failure cloaked in self-pity. Her impact isn't progress. It's a cautionary tale, and her relevance today isn't power. It's desperation. Gutfeld and Tyrus don't just roast Hillary Clinton. They expose her, not as the pioneer she pretends to be, but as the reminder that privilege, arrogance, and endless justifications are the fastest path to irrelevance. And this is where the Hillary myth truly collapses under its own weight. Because every attempt she's made to rewrite her story only highlights the failure she's been trying to bury. She's like a magician who keeps pulling the same rabbit out of the same hat. Except the rabbit is tired, mangy, and half the audience already walked out. Greg Gutfeld and Tyrus don't even need to exaggerate. Hillary's own track record is the punchline.
Warning signals that you were gonna lose? Well, too bad you didn't bother to visit the states you ended up losing, you potato-shaped wine bag. But would he even be worse now?
I think that he'd be even worse now.
Yeah.
Because he was somewhat restrained, believe it or not,
Wow.
in the first term by people who he hired because he thought they would go along with him.
She wanted to be remembered as a historic pioneer, but instead she's remembered as the politician who had every possible benefit: name recognition, wealth, media adoration, institutional support, and still lost to Donald Trump, a man the media swore had no chance. That's not bad luck. That's a monumental self-inflicted wound. When history writes the margins, Hillary isn't the first female president. She's the warning label slapped on the establishment, and yet she refuses to accept it. She clings to the stage, delivering speeches about democracy while cashing checks from the very people who profit off undermining it. It's the kind of hypocrisy that practically begs for roasting. Tyrus points out how she rebranded herself a dozen times: advocate for women, advocate for the middle class, advocate for global unity, and each time the mask slipped faster than the last. No rebranding can hide the fact that voters didn't trust her and still don't. That's the real wound. Hillary spent decades demanding loyalty from voters while offering nothing but condescension in return. She didn't lose because America wasn't ready for a woman president.
So imagine an inner circle in hell where you are doomed to defend the biggest screw-up of your life. That's where you'll find Hillary.
I won the places that represent 2/3 of America's gross domestic product. So I won the places that are optimistic, diverse, dynamic, moving forward, and his whole campaign, Make America Great Again, was looking.
She lost because America was tired of being lectured by someone who saw herself as too important to be questioned. She was supposed to be inevitable, but inevitability doesn't survive contact with reality. Gutfeld drills this home by portraying Hillary's legacy not as empowerment, but privilege. She wanted the presidency handed to her the same way she'd been handed everything else in her career. Opportunities she didn't earn. Positions she filled only because of proximity to power. The tragedy of her story isn't that she failed. It's that she never realized why. In her mind, losing is always someone else's fault. The press, the voters, the Russians, the weather, take your pick. Never Hillary. But that excuse machine doesn't work anymore. The more she speaks, the more obvious it becomes. She's not a victim of circumstance. She's the architect of her downfall. And now the only relevance she has left comes from being roasted, dissected, and exposed for what she really is. Gutfeld and Tyrus aren't tearing down a giant. They're kicking down a cardboard cutout propped up by media nostalgia. What makes their takedown so satisfying is that it's not even cruel, it's truthful. Hillary built herself into a monument of inevitability, and when that monument crumbled, she still tried to sell the rubble as progress, but no one's buying anymore. Her story is less about breaking glass ceilings and more about showing how far someone can fall when arrogance becomes a substitute for authenticity. So the conclusion writes itself. Hillary Clinton's place in history isn't as the first woman president or even as a respected leader who came close. Her place is as the political cautionary tale of an era, the face of elitism, of privilege, of everything voters rebelled against. And Greg Gutfeld with Tyrus makes sure that cautionary tale is written in permanent ink, because Hillary didn't just lose an election. She lost her legacy. What was supposed to be her crowning achievement instead became the moment that defined her downfall. No amount of polished speeches, carefully crafted justifications, or staged comeback attempts can rewrite the truth that the world already saw play out in real time. She isn't destiny denied, she's destiny dodged, and that makes the collapse sting even more. Every attempt to reframe her narrative only highlights the fact that she couldn't seal the deal when it mattered most, and the punchline is brutal. The more she insists she's still relevant, the louder the world laughs at the contradiction. That's not history making. It's self-parody masquerading as gravitas. Thanks to Gutfeld and Tyrus, the joke doesn't just land, it lands with precision, making sure Hillary's myth collapses under the weight of her own performance.